Okay, recording has started. I will mention, so at least we'll get this much on the recording, that there is a video on the Dataedo website, a tutorial video that talks about scheduling these metadata imports. Um, so it's not only for the metadata refreshes, you can also do the same process for profiling refreshes and also for exports. If you have exports, say to PDF, that need to run every month or every quarter, something, you can do the same process for those. Of course, if it's only once a quarter, doing it manually isn't that cumbersome. But in some cases, there may be another reason, for an HTML export or something. But you can schedule the imports, the exports, and the profiling refreshes. That's all outlined in that video that I mentioned. So let's go ahead and start in on discussion of domains. As I do this, again, if you have comments or anything, feel free to unmute yourself and just break in. This is meant to be informal, just a discussion. And if you don't want to do that, of course, throw something in the chat. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, this is desktop version 24.1. As you can see, domains came into existence. We introduced them in version 23.2, so it's been around for a couple of versions. And we've talked some about domains and areas in the past in workshops, and there's a couple of tutorial videos about this. And I realized from a question that someone posted when they registered for this that I may have been I may have misled you when we've had these discussions about domains and areas. And the reason for that is by chance, the examples that I used here, I used the finance business domain as an example. I always also used the analytics for finance data domain as an example. And I think I may have implied that there's a relationship between these. There's not. You can design these as needed, whatever you need to present, to get that logical presentation layer for your users. So by chance, we have a finance department that is organized with teams right here, the accounting team, the asset management team, the financial planning team. And then within there are these process groups, if we want to call them that, business processes that fit under the purview of these teams. So it makes it very easy for someone on the finance department to find their team and then find that data, find the knowledge about the data that is under their purview, so they can quickly find what's appropriate to their job. And then, as I said, by chance, I used the analytics finance data domain as another example. The purpose of the data domains is, again, to collect and provide easy access to data sources or data systems, data objects, whatever it is there, to the more technical users, basically the IT side, possibly the BI team, so that they can get to the things that they are responsible for, what they work with, what they have stewardship over, that idea of ownership or responsibility, management. So it's a bit different in the purpose. The organization is fluid, but you can. So there doesn't have to be a relationship between these, a finance here and a finance here, or an HR here and an HR up here. There doesn't have to be a relationship. Just by chance, this example does that. Something else to say, and I think I think this is clear, but just to say it explicitly, your data sources and your glossary terms that you link from let's go ahead and open this, that you link from the data sources, these tables, views, glossary terms, whatever, you link them to the subject areas and the data areas. That's not a one-to-one relationship. You can put tables or any object here into multiple areas. So it doesn't have to be one-to-one, which when you think about it is logical because people on the business side will want to know about data objects, for example, employees right there. People in IT are responsible for those same objects. So they must be able to be linked to both places. Um, so I'm sorry if I misled anybody or confused anybody that way. The whole idea here, and I'm going to talk about this a lot more as we continue this discussion. The whole idea is put yourself in the shoes of your user, whether it's a business user or an IT user, a technical person. Put yourself in their shoes and think what will make sense, what presentation groups will make sense to them as they come in, probably blindly, and look for the things that are appropriate to their job. That's really the key to this is what do they expect and what will make the user interface easy for them to find the assets and the knowledge that's pertinent to making them successful. Again, one of the reasons for the data catalog in the first place is to make it so that people can basically self-serve, find the information on their own rather than spending time, wasting time trying to find who the subject matter expert is, sending them an email or a message, asking the question, having the subject matter expert possibly have to do some research and reply back. That can take, potentially several days for that entire process, where with the data catalog, the person logs in, they do a search, and they're able to get in there to that knowledge quickly. So that's the purpose of these domains, is to help them facilitate that search, make it very easy for them to find what they're looking for. Okay, so
Hey,
any
Richard, I have a
questions
question.
about this? Yeah, go ahead, Brittany.
So and we haven't upgraded to this version yet. Have a call scheduled to do that soon, but I'm just looking. So does it show when you have assigned, tables or views to, either one or more data domains, business domains? Does it show? I'm assuming it shows the list. And I know that you can nest.
Mhm.
So is there a quick way to see for a table
Yes.
all of the domains that it belongs to?
So from the area level of the area side, of course, you can see, what terms you have, what assets, whatever they are. From that end, you can see it. From the other end, I'm not even sure where I can find a good example, but we'll find one here. You can go to your tables or your views. For example, let's look at this one, see if this is. You select that, and this is loading. Right here, it's going to tell you what business domains or data domains that is linked to. And you can even edit it right there and assign it right there. You can create that link. So that's how you can very quickly and easily see, what linkages exist. Um, let's see if I've got an example here. Let's just find something. If I go to
Yeah,
this,
and that was great. That was exactly what I was hoping to see. Oh, perfect. Yes.
yeah,
Wonderful.
right
Okay.
here. So you can
Thank
see
you.
it's linked to many different domains there. Okay, any other questions before I move into some alternate ways of thinking about domains? All right. Um, so as I presented in the other videos and the workshop and stuff, we basically said the best way to identify these or design these is business domains around business departments and data domains around data assets. And we mentioned data mesh, where data is a product. You kind of think of those products, and you can design your data domains around those. You can design it around ownership and stewardship, those sorts of things. So that's what this example is here. And correct me if I'm wrong, someone on the product team, I believe that these domains are imported when you install Dataedo, if you choose sample data. I believe these are included. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, no correction. I think that's the case. But it does give you this example of how that works. Alternatively, I put together some other ideas here of ways this could happen. Um, so I've got several examples, and I didn't flesh these out with links and all of that stuff. I just made the domain structures. So looking at business domains, the first one that I came up with right here is um, maybe um, maybe you have a need to give documentation or provide documentation about a product to end users, whether it's within your business or even outside the business. That's where that HTML export can come in handy. Um, but you could design this by product, where you have, in this case, I have product one and I have three subscription levels where they might have different have access to different functionality in your product. So obviously they would need different content, different knowledge content or documentation, depending on their subscription level. So you could create that this way, where you have your product one and your subscription levels, product two, same thing. So customer facing documentation is a possibility there. Um, this one here, this I created three business domains. These are kind of like uh, departments, but they're not really. They're more about activities. They're business facing activities. So in this case, we have hospital administration, and some examples I put in there are housekeeping, managerial, supply chain, the nursing staff, and everything that they need to know and information about them. Same thing for physicians. Then we've got hospital procedures. Examples I put imaging and lab work, hospital services, emergency services, inpatient services, and outpatient services. So thinking about activities of how people are going to think. A person in this scenario here, a person working, let's say, in hospital management, they want to be able to get to management that way. It makes sense to the way they think. So again, this idea of what makes sense to your users and design this way. Another thing to mention here is as you build these, all of the links that you create from data objects and glossary terms to these um, subject areas in this case, those are just links. So if you decide later on that one of these isn't working, or you get feedback from users that the structure doesn't work exactly in the best way for them, you can delete it and recreate that and recreate those links. You don't lose any of your documentation. You just rearrange, basically. The one thing you do lose, of course, is if we go back here, if I go into something like this, if you were to delete this subject area, you would lose the ERD, and you would lose any documentation you had specifically tied to that. Basically, your description, any custom fields there, such as your owner, subject matter expert, and the ERD. You would lose those. So that's something to keep in mind. But if necessary, you can very easily redesign your domain structure. If it's not working correctly, you're not um, you don't have to be committed to it from the very beginning, though you want to get it as close as you can to being useful. All right. Now I'm going to move into data domains. This one here is very similar to the customer-facing documentation I did up here. This one is a consulting service where um, the catalog owner, um, they may provide consulting to various customers. and they need to give them a data dictionary about what they're providing. So let's say they're designing a data warehouse for a customer, and they need to give that documentation, that data dictionary to them. This is a way that they can provide that. They may be very similar. The service here might be very similar, but different content for each of their clients. And here we've got, maybe they have another service. So an example there of how they can provide the dictionary, um, the data dictionary knowledge information directly to those clients. This could very well also be in a business domain. Either one works. I put it here because it is more focused about the dictionary than it is about operations. All right. Um, the next one right here, this is getting, um, this is pulling things away from this idea of presenting it to end users. This is really a managerial thing for the editors. You could create these data areas, a data area for each of your editors, and then link to that data area those objects that they're responsible for. They may be doing it by product, but they might not be. Also, they might be doing it by subject, like Barbara could be responsible for updating or creating descriptive information, descriptions, and titles for everything that has to do with finance. And Drew may be responsible for everything having to do with HR and so on. So you could link those out that way. And then the really cool thing is you can use the show progress button right here. I have no progress because there's nothing linked to these, but you could do that show progress and see how each of those people is doing on their assignment, both for management and for their own knowledge, so that they can see what they still need to work on. Much easier than just saying, hey, Barbara, go into the data sources and find everything that has to do with finance. Here, you link them to them, and she's very easily able to find what she's responsible for, do the work, and when it's done, you can simply delete this. That's a temporary thing to help them do their work. It has no other purpose. So when they're finished, you can go ahead and remove that. So it's a collection and presentation again, but for a specific purpose. Um, Related to that, you may want to have development lanes. So here we've got dev, stage, and prod. You could link those assets from the different development lanes into these groups to make it easier to um, pigeonhole them, put them into groups that people can find and keep them separate. Um, and again, if you have more than one source, you could either put the sources for all of the sources for dev inside of that in a hierarchy, or you could have all of your sources at the higher level and the dev stage and prod inside each of those. You could make that tree either direction, but it could very easily allow people to see what is the status of the catalog with regards to the stage lane and what is in production. It allows you to very easily keep that up to date. And again, your automatic metadata refreshes, it would bring that metadata in from the sources. And because these are links, it would automatically show up here with those with that metadata refresh. Of course, if you have tables added, reports added, things like that, then you would need to link them. They wouldn't show because they haven't been linked yet because they're new. But you could very easily see those using that schema changes. So once a week or something, you look at schema changes for each data source, see what's new, see if it needs to be linked to any of your domains, and maintain it that way. The final one that I've got here is modeling. And this is stretching the use of Dataedo into a space that technically is not its purpose, but it can be used this way. And that is this idea of using a manual database to design or create a design for a data source, whether that is something you can't connect to and you just need to represent, or you're building something new and you're using this as a substitute design tool where you create your database. Once you have that, you start adding objects like tables and views, start creating relationships, all of that stuff. And as you put it into one of these uh, data areas, in this case, it works for subject areas too. You can also use those tables to create an ERD and then export all of that as a unit because it is a data area. Export all of those tables, views, columns, definitions, the ERD, all of that stuff can be exported, and it creates or it provides that requirements document. And then as that design is implemented by your engineers, you link them back to an as-built data area right there. So you can compare, here's what I asked for, here's what they provided, and you start to see, are there any gaps? Are there any differences? If there are differences, are they better or worse? And it gives you that ability to very easily find what you asked for and what they gave you. So that's another idea. Again, this is stretching the use of Dataedo, but it's something that I find useful. I did it in my previous job extensively. We were designing a complete new data warehouse, and I was the person doing the requirements. And so I used this feature right here, created manual databases, design the tables, the relationships, the keys, all of that stuff, and then provided that to the engineering team as their uh, requirements for each portion of the warehouse as they worked on them. Um, any questions? These were just examples, but any questions or comments, including, do you have examples or ways that you've done or used domains differently? I think it would be useful if any of you have other examples of how you use these. It could be, or how you envision using them. That could be very illuminating to everyone.
And Richard, I was going to mention, do you have the web version of this example too? I think it would be good to show people that. I mean, especially as we talk about providing value to end users.
So this one I've not connected to the web. The other one I have. So if I go over here, this is that the example that I showed first, the one where it is set up by department and by stewardship in IT. That is what it looks like here. And again, you just head in here. The big thing here about the web is you can set up your user groups and your permissions so that a person on the sales team, for example, you can give them permission so they see this only. The rest of them are not even here to confuse them. They have one choice and it is theirs. You can align those permissions so that it gives them access directly to the space that you want them to. For example, I could set up a group and give people permission to only the marketing and sales business domain. Or I could say you only have access to the products subject area or the sales subject area, and it gets them directly to what they're looking for. If they happen to use search right there and they search for something they don't have access to, like, I don't know, they're in the sales team and they search for um, employee wage. They start searching for wages or something like that. It's going to come back and say, you don't have access to that information. So it allows you, again, to focus people directly to the assets that are appropriate to them. So there's the ERD. All of this, we have the lineage. I'm not going to click because it could take a while to generate that. But all of that is right there. And again, that whole idea is send people where they need to go. And if the only thing they have access to is, the finance business domain, only show them that and don't let them see anything else. Of course, when they go in here, they have they have access to any of the assets or objects that are linked to this. This is not a good example because it's only glossary. Let's go over here, back to sales. Here, they do have access to a bunch of tables, some views, and they can go in here and see those, drill in, get the information that they need, and not everything else. The whole idea is simplify their access, simplify their life so they don't become frustrated with just so much information. Again, put yourself in their shoes and think, how are they going to think or search for information? But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have this other one linked to Portal, so I can't show that. But this is the first one I had. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Did I totally confuse you? I'm sorry if I did.
No, this was great. And I really liked the example. I didn't even think about using the manual database side because we're going through and re-architecting a bit of our system.
Mhm.
And it would be real. That's, yeah. I'm going to start using that to help our team because I play a similar role doing requirements and just a way to kind of map it out with our existing system and how different things need to connect and or even because as we do different data products, they're usually one time because we do pretty in-depth research. And so as we start thinking about these like year-long research projects, we're kind of building data models that take some time for our researchers. So I see actually multiple uses for that. So that's great. And as far as your other question about how we have things organized. We get data from different we're a state government program. And so we get data from different state agencies. So we were going to organize our data domains by our data sharing agreements. So which agency we're getting it from. And then our business domains, we're still thinking through. We might even group them. I don't know. Maybe it's by, student or like by educators, because educators interact with different state agencies. So we can see like all the related tables, kind of across our different data partners. So we're still thinking through the business domain side of it, but we see great opportunity there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I had not thought of data sharing agreements and data sources, but yeah, that's another good idea there. Thank you for that. Um, yeah, and as you were talking about the modeling, I also thought you could you could extend this into a little bit of planning. You're planning out there a year. You could just create a data area for each of your plans. You don't have to put anything in it yet. You can just list them as plans and know that you're going to be working on these, as the time comes.
Right. Yes. Thank you so much, Richard.
You're welcome.
There's Brittany, Dataedo can create so-called DDL SQL, which you can then execute on the database to create the data structure. So yeah,
Oh, that's right. Thank
yeah.
you. I totally forgot about that part.
Yeah, and then you can import it. So Dataedo will think what is still in develop, well, still in design, and what is already physical. So it
Yeah.
will merge
Yeah.
those models. That could be
Thank you.
useful.
Yeah. Very helpful.
Yeah, Piotr, what language is this DDL? Is it T-SQL?
Um, it depends on the database engine. Yeah, that's a good question. A couple of them. No, actually, well, if you go to the next page, it's a generic language. You just select some select yeah
Which quotes you want to use
yeah.
or how this dialect is structured.
Yeah, I'm not
You don't
getting it.
have any objects. That's why probably it doesn't, or maybe it doesn't work on the
I
domain
think
level.
that's
If you
not
go
gonna.
to the data source,
Let me go
yeah,
back to
yeah,
to
but
the.
so it should support most of the standard engines. And so anyway, it's a help because it should be checked by the database admin for data types. Probably, yeah. So this is cool.
Yeah.
There are more
Okay.
parameters.
Yeah, so that's really good. Thank you for reminding me about that. My only hesitation there is if this is fresh design, then the DDL is going to be, based on, you know, okay, so if I create tables and things here, I design them here, and then export them, that must be generic SQL. And on the other hand, what I design is just a design. The engineers may like something different. Maybe I didn't design it with a star schema or something like that. So they can use this as a starting point, or they can use it entirely, or refine it, whatever the appropriate action is there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a design tool. It's more like a modeling
Yeah,
use case. And exactly, I mean, the data types might not be correct. So, engineers will have to review it, correct it, right? But the good thing is that once they do it, it simplifies their work because,
right.
alternative options are, there's more manual work. The good
Yeah,
good functionality is that if they apply changes and you connect to the source, it will merge, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's a very good option. And the other side of that same argument, or maybe the same side of the argument, is um, a lot of us can't afford Irwin as a design tool. So it allows us to kind of do this in a different way. All right. Something
Although
in
we're
chat.
planning a connector to Erwin, we already
Okay.
are shipping connector to Enterprise Architect. So you could import your designs, and we're thinking about linking them with some lineage functionalities. So you could, link your physical and modeling worlds.
Yeah.
Are any of you using some modeling tools in your organizations? Nobody's using.
Nobody answered. Okay. That's good. That's okay. Um, okay.
Brittany
Visio.
said Visio.
Yeah.
Visual. Okay. Yeah, Visual is more like a diagramming software than like proper modeling, or maybe I'm wrong. Um,
Yeah.
okay.
Uh, so Brittany, a comment on Visio. Where I worked before, I actually exported a design from Dataedo to Excel, and then imported that into Visio. Actually, no, it was Lucidchart. I used Lucidchart, but same thing. I imported that and had it automatically create the ERD there, which I clipped and brought back into Dataedo. So I cheated on creating the ERD, but that I was able to export to Excel and then make that into Lucidchart to build my ERD. All right, good. If there's no other comments or questions, I do want to hand off to Piotr about some future development that's coming.
Okay. So, as part of the new formula of those meetings, I would like to share with you in a, again, more informal way of what we're working on. So I'd like to show you a feature we're working on for the next release, 24.2. It's a scheduler. It's a new type of scheduling. So what Richard explained in the beginning, it's the state as it is right now. And I would like to show you what we are building and what should be available very soon. So a couple of screenshots, any comments are welcome, any, new ideas. So the first one is, okay, so this is a screen from desktop application. We'll add the same from to the web, but probably the release after that. So what you see here is the list of your data sources. And over here we can see what kind of tasks are scheduled for the source. Right, so you have an overview. So we have it's based on a separate scheduler software. So it's not a Windows scheduler or anything like that. It's Dataedo the service. yeah, so you can see the status of all the planned and executions that were historic executions. So over here you can see a list of data sources. Below you see the list of tasks, specific tasks. If you select one of those sources, you'll just see the relevant tasks. You can see when it was, what's the schedule, right? You can, the scheduler, let me see, should be, scheduler looks like that, right? So it's, you select, is it one time, is it, daily, weekly, monthly, and on what day of a month you'd like this to run, right? And you can see this information here. You can see when was the last execution, when will be the next execution. And then you can link to specific executions, right? And I believe, yeah, we're looking at the executions right now. So here's an idea of that execution. Here's the idea of the task. And you can see that it was successful. And on the right here, you'll see the more detailed log of what happened or what is still happening. Here is the task that failed.
If it was unsuccessful, it would give us the details. Yeah, you just clicked on that. Okay.
Yeah, here's more detail. Yeah. What's important is the new piece of software, which we call agent. So an agent is essentially a desktop, Windows-less desktop, UI-less desktop. You can install it on any machine, and they register to the repository. Over here, you can see that there's just one agent that's visible. You can install on multiple machines, and they will just collect tasks, so we can make this in parallel, right? So the agent, here's one agent. Here's the name of the machine. Maybe we can add some extra information on where is it installed, and then those agents just take tasks from the schedule. Okay, so that's the
So Piotr, on that idea of agents, so you could install that, for example, on the database server, for example, where the repository is housed, or on the IIS server, whatever's appropriate, maybe, so that you don't have to deal with that issue of a VPN or a SSH tunnel or something, right?
Yes, I mean, it doesn't matter where the worker is, right? It has to have access to the repository and to the source, right? So it needs to be able to connect to the source. So yeah, right now it's Windows only. In future we will migrate it to be generic, so we can install it on Linux. What more? It will be available in the web as well, and also there will be some summary report of some kind of dashboard where you can see the executions, the daily executions of some kind of matrix or a chart where you see what was the time, what was the success or fail rate, and then which sources were processed on what day, right? So give like a high level overview of what was going on.
That's very exciting. Yeah, I would have loved this when I was a when I was a customer. This would have been great. Is this in 24.2?
Yeah, the screenshot is from 24.2. This is an actual software. It's not Figma, it's not just a mock-up. It's a software, and we're releasing that. Yeah, the web part and the dashboard will be in releases after that.
Would that dashboard you mentioned, would that be a kind of I don't want to say standalone, but a dedicated dashboard for scheduling, or would it be part of the steward dashboard?
It would so it will be some sort of metadata scanning dashboard with more options, more charts. Yeah, it will be standalone, but not just for scheduler. It will be all kinds of scanning. We haven't decided yet because you could also think about profiling. So I don't know what would be the scope of that, but yeah, basically we'd like to provide better visibility of what was being done, how much time it took, and what was successful, or maybe something failed completely, or maybe your agent is not working for a month and you don't know that, right?
Yeah, I can see this being very useful to reassure security office and data governance office that the scanning that is happening is appropriate and it's um, not being intrusive or bad for the company.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. Something exciting to look forward to. Um, all right. So yeah, we've got 9 minutes. If anyone has questions, if you don't, um, we can call this. But the recording will be available without that first part that I forgot to record. But the recording of this will be available in a couple of days, I believe. So your chance to ask any other questions.
I maybe for future topic, and something that we're struggling with a little bit is we have tables that go through like different stages of transformation. And I think we're partly trying to figure out like where do we document things? Because if we document the same thing in multiple areas, then that means when we have to do updates, we have to update in multiple um, sections. So it's kind of
Are
anyway.
you referring to pipeline movement or like lineage movement, or are you talking about development lanes?
Um, the pipeline movement.
Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
we may only choose to document in one space, but I could see there being scenarios where it does live in multiple spaces. And I did see that there is a tool that can copy documentation over, but it's thinking about like the maintenance and update of the same information in multiple places. And maybe, I mean, we're gonna schedule a call with you. We have a new person on, and so maybe that's a topic where we can dig into that more. But I don't know if others are also kind of struggling with that or have talked to you about that.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about it. Piotr, that might be something else you want to think about scheduling, is that sort of push of data along the pipeline and along the lineage.
Yeah, this
That
came
would be
up before, so Brittany, you're not the only person that requested that. So this could work in two ways at least. One is copying over description from source table to the destination. It's a bit risky, and the other one is inheriting descriptions, which what you can show the description for current object, or maybe it's empty, but you also show from up the stream, description from up the stream, right? Just a preview visible in the portal. So that might be a better option because it's not intrusive. You will not, if someone provides a description, changes it doesn't override anything.
Yeah, a little bit of curation there to make sure that it's appropriate. Okay, good. Thank you. Um, let's see. When is 24.2 estimated to be released?
So we are closing development right now, so it should be sometime next month.
Perfect, perfect. And Matt asked, does the scheduler replace the command files? Yes, it would.
Actually, it will complement it. So it's based on the command files. They will still work. You don't have, I mean, you don't have to.
So you could use it either way.
Yeah. You don't have to change your current setup. It's just an improvement.
Okay, good to know.
Had another question related to that. When you save the files, it's putting your user ID and password out there in them, which is fine. The password's encrypted. Thing is, if I create one out there, the way the company works, every 60 days, I'm changing my password. So I'd have to go out there and recreate all those things. Is there a way to get it to use an administrative password when it's saving those files so that I don't have to do that every other month?
Yeah. Okay, I don't. It's a bit technical for me, and but the thing is, we were planning to use. Yeah, I don't want to confuse something, but like a vault for passwords, right? So it's not saved in the file, right? It will be increase the security as well, right? So you will update the password in this place, and those, the scheduler and command lines will check that. But we're just researching that. We're planning to go to the cloud, operate Dataedo in the cloud, and that's one of the things we have to figure out, right? To make ensure the security. Yeah, but I don't have any details now. And for now, I suppose you'll have to, yeah, just update the command lines.
Okay, yeah. All right.
But another
Thank you.
thing that I've heard some people do is rather than using their own editor password and credentials there, they will have a admin account or a service account that they use. And that could either be focused towards a single connection or it could be for all of your connections. A lot of people like that, of course, for the reason that if you leave the team, you don't have to reset up everything with the new person. It would just.
Yeah, it shouldn't be an admin account. It should be a dedicated Dataedo account for the security reasons, so that admin can see, what is done, and it could be shut down if needed.
Okay.
Yeah, service account idea. And some companies, they only allow the service accounts to access their data sources. So it's good on both sides for everybody.
Yeah, no, I've just really started working with this, and you don't want to know the questions I have at the moment. I'll reach out to you with some of them as I kind of organize my thoughts, because I think I told you before, we're going to have hundreds of databases, and that refresh process is going to be large.
Yeah, we're improving that. So the time is nearly up, but we in the next release 24.3, we're planning to introduce groups of databases and group adding of the data sources. So you'll just connect to the server and use checkboxes to select the databases. So we are working on improving that as well. Not this release, but the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So look for that, or anticipate that for summertime.
Yep.
Okay.
And in the meantime, maybe we can automate creation of command lines for you in some way. Yeah, talk to Richard and.
We have a process for it. We have one particular database that is taking forever to refresh, and it's timing out. So I've been trying to isolate the one. So I know we have a few of our data warehousing databases, and we'll have hundreds of objects and tables and functions and stuff. As they kind of sit under some data lake stuff in Azure, and those take a while to chug through. So I was trying to isolate which one it was.
Yeah,
let's solve the problem.
Let's get together and research those and figure out how to streamline that. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Well, we're at time, so thank you all, and appreciate the interaction. Hope this information was useful.